on, which I will use in order to have a lot more than just 2 of those items. Either way, as I mentioned earlier, this cave can be extremely volatile, and those bats specifically can cast Balloon.
Like
And
that.
Yes, exactly. That is just a 10-second time loss at worst. And no, at best. No, come on. Yeah, they can do that.
It begins.
It begins indeed. So, worst case scenario is that they just can straight up kill you while you are ballooned. That's also why I saved. There is, in general, quite a few places where the enemies can potentially kill you, even though it's not terribly likely. But those are the places where I will just generally take some safety saves instead of going the normal route, which does not take any additional saves outside of the ones that actually, well, save some time. Here, getting past those slimes is tricky, but as long as you're paying attention to when they can hit you and when they can't, it's still fun. Killing 2 more goblins in order to level up the spear to level 1, and I think I should have it here. Yes, exactly. So those weapons skill up, and we find the magic rope. The magic rope is useful as an item, a consumable item, because it will allow you to get to the entrance of a specific dungeon or a specific cave. You can just really make a ton of shortcuts with it, so it's definitely quicker to get it instead of not getting it. So, the spear is leveled up. We only need to open the entrance to the Dwarf Village by hitting this skull switch right there. And music. The interesting thing is, a lot of people just kind of find it kind of polarizing that either they really like this music or they don't at all. It's kind of strange. So, we get into the shop right here where I will buy some equipment. 3 power wrists, which increase your strength by 5, which is a lot for this early in the game. Then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spiky suits. The helmet for the boy and the helmet for the sprite. So I buy a lot of spiky suits, and that kind of ties into me only buying 2 of each item earlier. So I stand in this very specific spot right here, equip the item, trash it, 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 equip the item, trash it. Alright, and then I also equip the sword. So let me real quick show you. I now have 0 candies and 0 barrels, 0 cups of wishes, 0 medical herbs. So what I did there is the game essentially tries to unequip your item before deleting it. However, by trying to do so, depending on where you stand on the screen, it will alter different values in your memory. The place where I stood is just, it alters the values of the items in my inventory, and I just lower the amount by 2 each. So I have 0 of each item, which essentially means I can use them a total of 8 times. Logic.
Yeah, the normal cap for consumable healing items in this game is 4. So he just broke that, basically.
Indeed. Also, this little theater demonstration right there, where, well, we could technically pay the entire depth of the sprite if we just wanted to, but the game doesn't let us. Is the first of 2 triggers which spawns the boss in this area. And we even get the money back, even though we have so much.
So stingy.
So, for reference, what I also did is when creating that much money, or just technically selling nothing, I created a corrupted item called a Blat, and that Blat item is in the last inventory slot that I put there. If I did not put it into the last inventory slot, it would just completely corrupt my inventory, and it would be kind of difficult to navigate. So, this is the second of the 2 triggers. We level up the sword to level 2. Now the sword has a little bit more attack power as a baseline, but also it allows us to level up the sword to level 2 as soon as we kill a total of 12.5 enemies. And the second boss fight is coming up right here, the Tropic Hollow. Also, you can moonwalk in this game, by the way. Pretty awesome. So the Tropicolor is very specific on how you want to defeat him. You don't want to get hit by the initial pumpkins at all, since you can usually completely avoid them if you just step careful. Also here, normally the Tropicolor will dive down immediately again as soon as you hit him. However, by hitting him in the very specific timing we do is right here, just before he spits out a pumpkin, he will stay up once more and only dive down after the second hit. And I don't think I got the... No. Way too many low damage rolls. By the way, low damage rolls are just 35 damage in this fight specifically, and those happen 20% of the time. So it is more likely than not that you will have to go through at least 5 cycles of the Tropicolor diving, unburrowing and coming up again. So, and we get to have our second party member, finally. Once we get our second party member, the game is a lot less volatile, since we will be able to recover from getting hit and comboed from on one character just by switching to the other character and helping out that way as well. Further, the name for the sprite is going to be Frisk. Unfortunately, I'm not quite aware of what that refers to, but thank you very much for donating. It's going to be Frisk. Alright, so we have our second party member here. The sprite automatically joins you with a boomerang in his hand. However, we want him to equip the spear very early on, so I do this right now, because I will get another weapon just from this elder here. He gives us the bow and arrow, which by the way is basically the worst weapon if you try to play this quickly. But it saves me a little bit of time having to switch out later, since there are less weapon presence in the item ring. Next up, we go over to Watts, who will give us an axe, which allows us to whack away some boulders and generally open up some areas, I guess. And also he will create a shortcut from the bottom of Gaia's Nabble up to the water again, to the pond. Further, I will be equipping the sprite here with some equipment items, like that we bought earlier, so he takes a lot less damage. And I set the control scheme to be upside down. So, muscle memory. Now I have the second controller to be the second one in place. Also, well, I deactivate the multi-tap for the first time after I get out here. So let me really quick outline on what I'm doing with whenever I reach to the multi-tap there. The multi-tap has a button on it, which basically tells the Super Nintendo whether the third controller is active or not. And Seeker of Mana has a function in it where it will just check whether the third controller is active or not. And if it's not active, it will check whether there is currently a third controller character active. And if it is, it will automatically reassign that character to AI control. More about that later, because as to why that is so useful. Here, if you have ever played this game, you would remember that after you go down to Gaia's Nabble, into the Tropicolor, normally you would probably go into Eleni's Forest and meet your third party member in there, who is currently trapped by 2 wolves. But instead of going to the front entrance, we just go to the back entrance and leave her in the 2 wolves' hands. That is fine, she will get out of it. Also, here, rope pulls are special. Let me demonstrate this real quick. So I just straight up jump through the wall, right there. Further, that's too far away. I use the AI targeting command and then repeatedly hit the rope pull, and the AI can just literally also straight up walk through the wall.
Yes.
It's pretty special.
Yeah, you do get some flexibility with how you handle the various story triggers in this part of the game, but yeah, he just bypassed quite a few, because whatever you do, you're intended to both have gone to Gaia's navel and met the girl in order to get into this forest the normal way.
Yes, indeed. And as you will soon notice, because we skipped getting the girl, the name in the text box is going to be slightly messed up.
Just a little.
Just a little indeed. So, also, while I'm running through those areas, my goal is still to level up the sword to level 2, and I will need to be a bit careful here because I'm Moogled and Moogles cannot attack. So, here I kill some more enemies. I still need, I think...
Because he's trying to get the sword up to level 2 as part of a setup for another glitch that he's going to be using in the near future.
That's why. So, whenever a chest spawns, that prevents another enemy from spawning, since it just takes up an enemy slot. So, it's not an issue this time around because I took some backup, or well, preventive measures that in case this happens, I would have some backup kills. So, I will still be able to level up the sword along the way without too much of delay.
Nice.
Talking to this guard right here, and here in this text box, try to pay attention to the names. It's just go, 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 go,
Exactly 14 times.
12 actually.
Oh, 12? Okay.
Yes. So, what happens here is the girl's name is called, and Secret of Mana initiates the values for all values really, just by inputting the highest possible number into the respective memory values. And what that does is the highest values just corresponds to go. And because there can be technically up to 12 characters per character name, even though there can only be... Okay, I'm glad. So just for reference, that was basically the best outcome, because if you don't want to accidentally open a chest, since I currently have 0 of each of my items in the inventory, it would have increased from 0 to 1, which means instead of using those items 8 times, I could have only used it once. So I'm glad it was the punching glove. So also use a barrel on the sprite.
Alright, so this is Spiky Tiger, who a lot of people consider the most difficult boss in the game.
Yes.
Despite being early, just because it has some nasty attacks, it can go out of range of most of your weapons, and you have no magic at this point.
Indeed. It is very... I think pretty much everyone I've ever met says this is probably the most difficult boss, because right after this, well, basically right after this, you will get some magic and it will become a lot easier from there, at least for boss fights. However, as a speedrunner, you don't really want to spend too much time, and there's a reason as to why I leveled up the sword to level 2. Let's demonstrate. I am going to charge up the sword to level 2. Switch out with the second controller, the sprite, to the spear. It overcharges. Boom. Oh nice, I even got the whiteout skip.
So that's the first use of what we call the weapon overcharge glitch.
Indeed. I will probably make a little bit of a slower version on the next boss just to explain it how that works. But the short version is we put a level 2 charge attack onto a level 1 weapon, and the game doesn't exactly know how to handle that. Here we got to Eleni, and well, she's all of a sudden really nice to us.
Well, she saw what you just did to her pet.
Indeed. So as a little note, there is 50 gold in the chest. Do we get it?
Oh, he's boxing the witch in the corner there on purpose to speed up finishing out this cutscene.
Indeed. So, we get the 50 gold in the chest, and that is just because otherwise she will not teleport us outside.
It's kind of hard to overemphasize too just how much just subtle movement tech there is in this run that really adds up over the course too, between like that trick he was doing there along with all of the stuff he's doing with switching in and out characters for AI versus controller control.
Indeed. Very often you will see me to not have a second controller active, like right here, just because I will be able to run after I switch characters, since AI-controlled characters do not lose any stamina while they are running, so I can just switch character and start running immediately again. Also, this will manipulate their movement to an extent that we need. So, we just got the whip weapon, which is the normal way how you actually cross those rope poles right here. So, normal way how you do it is you equip the whip, then you stand here, your paddle gets gathered, you hit the other rope pole on the other side and jump over like there. The rope poles, however, they have some funky mechanics to say the least. If you just hit them, the game will immediately, the first thing it does is it lets you walk through walls if you can move, but then it takes away your ability to move normally. So what we do instead is we execute at a level 1 sword charge attack in order to move anyways, even though the game does not allow us to in a sense. So, real quick, I charge up the spear to level 1, switch out to the sword to level 2, it instantly snaps to level 2 because we were fully charged, switch back to the spear, it overcharges, and boom. It's pretty fantastic. So, also this guy technically has 2 forms, however if you deal enough damage to the first one, he is going to be instantly dead. Next up, another little glitch. We use the magic rope just before walking into the cutscene trigger for Nandini, and the cutscene will play at the entrance of the cave instead. This saves less than a second, but it's pretty awesome. Oh well. Also on the note of the overcharge attack, for people that are not quite familiar with this game, in the very late game, you can charge up to level 8 with your charge attack. And that takes about 20 seconds in order to charge up that high, as in it's really, really long and pretty powerful for a level 8 charge attack to say the least. But with the overcharge attack, we don't have to worry about any character's levels or anything at all. We will pretty much always deal the maximum amount of damage possible, since the overcharge attack, instead of a maximum of level 8, we attack with something like level 90 or 100. So that is quite the difference, since each level of charge attacks increases our power by 50%. But don't worry, even if you think it is kind of easy to kill all of those bosses, right now it kind of is, but not really. There is a lot of subtleties that we introduce and do during the speedruns that we will not be able to point out all the way. But later on there will be a lot more difficult things that we need to do in order to efficiently kill bosses really quickly. Also on that note, I'm playing this game 1-player 2-controller. At least for a majority of the bosses and, well, a good portion of the game throughout. The 1-player 1-controller category, which by the way the record holder is Crow, is more difficult than the 1-player 2-controller category. This is also why the 2-controller category is a lot more common. Further, the short version is with only one controller, you will not be able to use certain glitches or just a weaker version of a certain glitch. For example, you can use an overcharge, but you have to rely on AI-controlled characters, which is extremely unreliable, to say the least.
Yeah, this game is the partner AI in this game has a pretty notorious reputation of making poor decisions.
Yes, they get stuck everywhere.
With fighting. That's why I generally recommend when people play this game normally to play it with a friend instead of by themselves.
Indeed. So, and we get into the Earth Palace. As a kid, I always mistook this as the Fire Palace because at the end there's the Fire Gigas, but really this is the Earth Palace. And so we continue on our quest to seal all the mana seeds.